In the world of fashion dolls, you're always going to have your big players, your Bratz, your Barbies, and your Monster Highs, etc. And despite the massive popularity and success of these lines, they're actually not the norm. In reality, it's kind of an anomaly for a doll line to last longer than a few years, especially in times when the market is really competitive. Because of this, there's a ton of doll lines that just kind of come and go throughout the years without any major impact. I've developed a minor obsession with these sort of flash-in-the-pan dolls, especially in recent years when popular dolls from yesteryear like Bratz and Monster High are rising sharply in price. These lesser-known lines have been keeping me company while I save up for that Dresden doll that I will never be able to afford. So for fun, I thought I'd just compile a list of my top 10 doll lines that I consider underrated. Now, in your circles, these might be the only dolls anyone talks about, in which case, please invite me. But also, just keep in mind that this list is completely subjective and my own experience. If nothing else, I hope you're introduced to some really cool doll lines that might have gone under your radar. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 10. Okay, and this one is pretty low on the list, not because I like her less than the others, but because I admit that it's a bit of a stretch to call her underrated. In Japan, where she's produced, she's quite literally a cultural icon on the scale of Barbie. In fact, her and Barbie are the only fashion dolls to have run continuously for longer than 25 years. Rika was introduced to the market in 1967 by Takara, now Takara Tomy. Like Barbie, she has some established characteristics, like being 11 years old and an aspiring fashion designer, but her actual character and setting vary from doll to doll. I only call her underrated because I just don't see her get a lot of attention in the States where I live. I think it might be because she used to be kind of hard to buy, but in recent years there's a ton more options for consumers outside of Japan to buy Rika's either new or secondhand. I really love Rika, not only because she's really adorable and has amazing outfits, but because she also has a lot of sentimental value for me. When I studied abroad in college in Japan, I mentioned being a doll collector to my host family, and they were super enthused about it. They actually took me to a local toy store and showed me all the dolls, and that's where I bought my first Rikas, so I really associate her with the incredible time I had there in Japan. Some of my favorite Rikas include the cinnamon roll collaboration, this pizza delivery playset, and the ballerina doll. A special mention to the Minions collaboration as well. So yeah, while it might not be accurate to call her underrated, I do hope that she continues to get more attention and become even more accessible to collectors living outside of Japan. Number 9. Before there was DreamWorks' Trollz, there was DiC's Trollz, with a Z. I don't know whose idea it was exactly to modernize the troll dolls fad from the 1960s into a ridiculous mid-2000s girl power disaster, but I absolutely love them for it. The dolls themselves are based on the 2005 TV series rather than vice versa, and if you haven't seen it, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. A group of teenage best friends, Amethyst, Ruby, Topaz, Onyx, and Sapphire, with magical powers, going shopping, flirting with boys, and saving the world from an ancient evil that escaped from the netherworld. The TV series definitely hasn't aged that well, but it's still a lot of fun and really harks back to that time when we had a surplus of action-adventure cartoons aimed specifically at young girls. I have so much nostalgia for the Trollz franchise. I remember searching everywhere for them every time my mom brought me to a place that sells toys. I spent hours on the website where you could make your own character and play games to buy clothes for them. I got up super early so I could catch episodes of the TV series, so collecting them really just transports me directly back to my childhood, and that's why I still love them to this day. The dolls themselves definitely don't stand up to a lot of other ones on this list, quality-wise, mostly because they're so small and the emphasis was on their hair way more than the fashions, but I think they still have a really cool and interesting place in the fashion doll world. I mean, come on, do you get more mid-2000s than magical belly button jewelry? Number 8. so this one is here because the concept just really intrigues me. She's probably the most vintage one on this list, being from the early 90s, before I ever even existed, and isn't technically a doll line so much as just one doll and a collection of outfits. Adventures of Vicky had an interesting magazine-based subscription system that was extremely common throughout the 90s. The first issue came with Vicky in her safari outfit, then subsequent issues would include a new outfit for her to wear based on a country, a time period, or a job. The magazine itself would include a story along with some puzzles and activities. Not only do I find Vicky herself incredibly adorable, but the range of different themed outfits is super cool too. If I was older, I could totally picture myself as a kid getting super excited when the new Vicky issue came in the mail and I could dress her up and then do all the games with her. It's like a pleasant nostalgia for something I've never experienced. Unless I count the Neopets magazine subscription I had briefly as a small child. Number 7. I think more than anything else on this list, Pinky Cooper really encapsulates the term flash in the pan. What is it that they say?
She lived. She served cunt. Then she died.
She was hardly on shelves for a year after being introduced in 2013, which is kind of strange considering how anticipated she was due to being created and designed by the Bratz creator Carter Bryant and his sister. I guess it has more to do with the period, since Monster High was huge at this time and collectors were shifting more towards dolls that had unique character concepts and strong personalities, where the Pinky Cooper girls aren't really that distinct from one another. Still, the dolls are beautiful. They have these gorgeous, incredibly detailed faces with inset eyes, and amazing bodies with blushing at the joints. The outfits are really cute too. It's sad that this line got cancelled really early because they had some really cool lines planned for the future. I guess the overall dog girl concept was just a bit too bizarre for some people to handle. That, or the concept just wasn't enough to carry the admittedly weak backstory. But I think regardless, the dolls have aged really well. My favorite out of the few we got has to be the Beverly Hills Pinky Cooper. Number 6. So I guess I really wouldn't call this one underrated so much as, hated. So this is another one based on a series, this time a live-action Netflix series that ran from 2015 to 2017. Though I guess you could argue the series promotes the dolls this time, I'm actually not sure. Anyways, these were made pretty specifically to promote an interest in STEM in young girls, which is awesome if you ask me. Each doll comes with a little experiment that you can do, like making your own glow stick or a lava lamp or using a blueprint to construct a skateboard. I watched the series as it came out and I actually really enjoyed it. The girls are all like secret agents that use their science expertise to build gadgets or solve mysteries. My favorite character, Adrienne, calls herself a culinary chemist, and it's just a lot of fun. They did a great job of recreating the outfits of the dolls in real life too. I definitely recommend it. Anyways, the dolls. I guess the reason they're so hated is because a lot of the fashion just hasn't aged well, and honestly was kind of outdated even when the dolls were on shelves. The Bryden and Cameron dolls are particularly guilty of this, but as a certified lover of things that are aesthetically revolting, I kinda love that about them. Even so, I think there are also more than enough dolls that have aged fine and have outfits that are super cute even today, particularly the Adrienne and Ember dolls. I still remember this not being a very big hit with collectors though, and disdain for them has quietly grown over the years, but that's fine. It keeps the eBay prices low for me. Number 5. Juku Couture was launched in 2008, and actually has a pretty tragic story. Well, tragic for a doll line, anyways. As evidenced by the name, Juku Couture took heavy inspiration from Japanese street fashion, heavily known as Harajuku fashion, which had been permeating American culture since the 90s, but quietly exploded in popularity by the late 2000s. The fashions were less directly inspired by popular street fashion styles, though, and more about embodying the spirit of Harajuku fashion, which emphasized personal creativity and a unique sense of style. The girls all came with a ton of outfit pieces that could be layered and switched around as you pleased, along with fashion packs with even more pieces to mix and match. The dolls also boasted some pretty impressive articulation and posability. There was a nature-themed line that followed the initial release and another round of fashion packs, but it's after this that tragedy struck. For some reason, Jakks Pacific re-released the first and second wave of dolls in 2009, but with a pretty significant decrease in quality. Less outfit pieces, much more blander faces. They also switched around the personalities and the clothes of some of the characters for some reason. We did get a few more fashion packs, but they were mostly repackaged pieces from past releases. The damage was done and the line died out that same year. Something I find really interesting about these dolls is that, unlike most others on this list, I think they've actually gotten more trendy with age. If you look at Japanese street fashion trends this year, they're definitely all about interesting layers and clashing fabrics. A lot of dolls throughout the years have tried to capture inspiration from Harajuku fashion, but I maintain that Juku Couture is one of the few that did it really successfully. Number 4. These are another that were just slightly before my time. I can't find a ton of info on their release, but they were produced by Three Muses and released in, I think, 2005. It seems like they were sold exclusively at KB Toys and through their website. By the time I was old enough to know that there were dolls outside of what I could find at Walmart or Toys R Us, these had already been discontinued, but that didn't stop me from falling in love with them. See, I've always had a fascination with astrology since I was a little kid, and even today it's still something I have a strong interest in. Anything like this that had a representation for all 12 signs, I ate up like candy. Zodiac Girlz was apparently meant to be a franchise that included all kinds of merchandise, but pretty much everything but the dolls has been lost to time. I do distinctly remember the website they had where you could dress up all the girls and read short horoscopes, but it wasn't anything on the level of, say, the My Scene website. It's been long since buried alongside Flash, though. The first collection included all 12 zodiac signs, then soon after they released second edition looks for 7 of them, but these are extremely rare. I would love to track down all of them someday. It's interesting, because I feel like a Zodiac-themed line is kind of a no-brainer this day and age, but nothing has really replicated the theme of these. Disney's Star Darlings did come pretty close, though. The second edition Virgo doll was actually one of my holy grails for several years because I liked her much better than the first edition Virgo. One day, a few months ago, I actually came across a listing for her on eBay and snatched her up immediately. She's one of the few dolls I don't really ever plan on opening. Number 3. In most doll circles, Mattel's teen trends from 2005 are really only known for allegedly being the reason MGA never produced another Kiana doll, due to the fact they also had a character similarly named Kiana. I don't actually know how true that is, though. The dolls themselves are 17 inches tall, which I don't usually collect dolls that large, but I think these are awesome. Because of their size, their outfits are larger scale and really amazing quality. Gabby, who is like Posh Girly Girl, is definitely my favorite, but all 4 characters have some really great outfits. There is the aforementioned Kiana, who's a little bit of a punk rock rebel, Deandra, the glam girl, and Courtney, the preppy one. There were a ton of fashion packs too, accessory packs, pets. Really, you could just buy their entire lives, and I love that so much. The dolls just have so much personality and potential for both play and collectability. That said, I can see why they didn't sell very well though. They are fully articulated, but it's very rudimentary and difficult to pose them. And although a major aspect of the dolls was being able to style their hair quality is just the worst. Like, be warned if you buy one of these secondhand because you're gonna get a rat's nest. There was a second wave the following year with more interesting outfits, but for the life of me, I could not find them anywhere. I want that Gabby so bad. Most tragically of all, though, there were plans to introduce a 5th character, Reina, who was also inspired by Harajuku fashion and looked so cute, but the line was dropped before she was ever released. I feel like I know how they felt when the Library of Alexandria was burned. Number 2. This is a doll line that's still in production, at least I think it is. Anyways, I actually didn't like these when they first came out. When they were released in 2018, the toy industry was in a weird spot. The shelves were dominated by blind boxes and surprise toys, and honestly, it kinda sucked. I just kinda wrote them off as another cheap cash grab where you paid for the unboxing experience rather than a good quality toy. Once I gave them a chance though, I fell in love. Especially from Series 3 on, I honestly didn't mind the surprise aspect because I was fine with getting pretty much any of the dolls. The quality is really nice for the price, and all the characters are super cute and have some truly adorable dolls. My personal favorites are Willow, who's obsessed with unicorns and mermaids, Skylar, who loves to travel and has fashions inspired by different parts of the world, and Emily, the makeup artist who was introduced in Series 4. Really, I love all of the characters though. Hairdorables are also really special to me because they were the first dolls I started collecting after a hiatus from dolls due to losing the bulk of my collection to a flood when I was in college. They really got me back into the hobby, and I'll always love them for that. There's a line of accompanying full-size fashion dolls as well called Hairmazing, which are also really nice. There's a basic line and a prom line that have been released, but they haven't gotten to making every character yet. I don't know if they'll get to it because I don't know the state of the line for sure, but I hope they're able to release more. These are super cute and deserve to stick around for at least a little bit longer. Before we get to number 1, here are a few honorable mentions that just didn't quite make the cut. Lisa Frank's Fab Friends. It's a Lisa Frank doll line. What more could you ask for? Victorian Fantasy. Yet another random doll line by Jack Pacific that I came across on eBay one day with no context and became obsessed with. They really are so pretty though. Disney VIP. Usually dolls made in the likeness of real people are kind of unsettling, but these did a really good job. Just looking at them fills me with such intense nostalgia. They're great. And now, on to the number 1 spot, my favorite underrated fashion doll. Number 1. Amazing, show-stopping, legendary, never been done before. I will hear no slander against my queens. So before Bratz hit the market, there was another toy craze that Mattel desperately wanted to cash in on. The fad of interactive tech toys, most specifically Furbies. Add some stylable hair, expressive eyes, a face full of makeup, some kicky fashions, and Diva Starz was born. One of the reasons I love these, aside from just how fabulous they are, is that for 20 years ago, the technology in them was kind of impressive. They recognized all their outfits and the other dolls by name and could carry on short conversations with one another. Sure, it was all pretty stereotypically girly and revolved around things like shopping or crushes on boys, but it was definitely still pretty innovative for the time. I know they have a very unusual appearance compared to most dolls in order to account for all the technology underneath their heads, and they get made fun of a lot for it, but I just find them really charming and kind of adorable. Even the fashion Diva Starz released in 2002, which saw the girls get taller, thinner, and more proportional to a Barbie doll, I still really love them despite how uncanny they are. It helps that their very early 2000s fashions are impeccable. Unfortunately, the fashion Diva Starz failed to capture the charm and popularity of the original Diva Starz and spelled the end of the brand. Since then, a lot of tech toys have come and gone, with a few even attempting to replicate the Diva Starz experience, but none of them have managed to quite reach their level of icon status, in my opinion. That said, I would love to see a modern take on these done properly. Well, with today's technology, the possibilities are kind of endless. So, there's my top 10 underrated fashion dolls. I'm sure you probably have your own lines that you feel are underappreciated, so let me know down in the comments what they are. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future, and please continue to suggest more topics for me to do. This one was picked out from a poll I posted in my community tab, and I definitely appreciate you guys' feedback. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the many more to come. Thank you!